RSI is moving in our direction. Everything is looking pretty good here. 37.
Hey, did your Matic, wasn't there a green moon on your Matic just a minute ago and it disappeared?
Yeah, it's gonna start flashing.
Okay. Thought I
Starting to,
saw it, but I wasn't
yeah,
sure.
it's starting to build its momentum. All right, so let's slide over here. Let's pull up Matic. So this type of play here, you see how we're sitting on the 200 moving average on all of them. See here. So this will give us an idea and say, okay, this should be a pretty decent entry into setting ourselves up with a long here, looking to retouch this bottom high of 114, possibly retest this 117 before the weekend, and then head back down. So now we always slide back to the 5 minute to see our entry, right? So here's what we're looking at, right? Here's a strong low, right? 112. That seems to be the bottom. And now we're going to try to get to this weak high up here, which is about 117, right? So our green moon's here. We have our green trend. Everything looks good. The 5 minute is a little more overexhausted. So what we're going to do is we're just going to let this 5 minute play out here, RSI play out, and then we're going to come back in. Now, just to verify, we'll take a look at the 3 minute. It's also exhausted and it's going to play out. It's also fighting the 200. So this is where we have to get above the 200 and kind of make a move here. So on the 1 minute, we can see that we got above the 200. We're starting to go sideways. There's a ton of volume here. And the 1 minute you can take a peek at because it'll kind of show you the strength of the current moment, right? So see how the RSI is pushing up, and now it's repushing. So it looks like right here, Matic wants to start, having a little push here. So we're going to watch the 1 minute curl down, and that'll give us a moment of time where we can start saying, okay, we're going to see some type of push once this 1 minute, comes down here. But this is where it's fighting to basically continue its momentum, right? So let's go back to the 3 minute. So we can see we had a top over here. So this right here has been a support line or a resistance line. You see that? See how it fought right here and it got rejected, came back, fought again, got rejected. So this is looking to break through this right here. So the 113, 114 area is going to be where you see a push to get up here. So we're just going to watch this pullback on the 3 minute RSI and the 5 minute, and that's going to give us our best entry. Okay.
Okay, I thought you said yesterday that we enter on the 15 minute. Did we enter on the 15 minute?
No, no, no. We always enter on the 5.
Always enter on the 5? Okay.
Always enter on the 5. Right? The 3 and the 5 are your entry charts.
Okay.
Yeah, because the 3 minute will mimic the 5. It's just a little bit ahead of it. So if the 3 minute comes down and it starts to head back up, then you can look at your 5 minute and say, okay, so the 5 minute should be, making my U-turn right now. What I said is that we always trade in the direction of the 30 minute and the 15 minute RSIs, right? So right now, everything that we want to see in our direction, which is the 2 hour RSI coming out of the bottom, right? We want to see this RSI bouncing up. We want that to have the 1 hour RSI bouncing up, which is already happening. So we're starting to see the beginning of the reversal, right? This is the beginning of the reversal. We take a look at the 3 hour. We're still heading down, so there's a little pressure there. But remember, these are time frames, right? So even though you see this 4 hour pushing down here, that's about a 4, 8, 12 hour type scenario, right? So within the next 4 hours, this could start to curl up, which would make sense somewhere around this afternoon, around 4, maybe even 6 o'clock. We'll start to see this bend up, and that will be the push, the middle push of Wednesday, right? Because they like to start pushing, and then they start getting a little more harder push towards the end of Wednesday, and then they push on Thursday, and then they start cutting back. So everything is lining up for Matic. Plus we have the 200 moving average where we're getting support right there. So that looks great, right? Now we're just kind of waiting for the swing of the momentum, right? And it's all starting to come together. Look at the 2 hours starting to get to the bottom, which is where we want. So this looks like it's building momentum. So that this we can look at and say, okay, we can see this building up. The 1 hour already broke, and we're heading towards the 1 hour moon. You see that? So the most important thing for the 1 hour moon all the time is a 1 hour moon, a trend, and positive volume, right? we already have positive volume right here. You see that?
Uh-huh.
So we already have part of what we're looking for. This is probably the most important part is positive volume. So positive volume is already here. So we're starting to see that. The 1 hour starting to bend up. So this means Matic is about to go long, right? So Matic's looking like a solid long position here. All right. XRP is doing the same thing.
Hey, how do you read the volume? Because I can't see it too well. Is it because it's above that white line and it's starting to grow?
Yeah, so right here. So, okay. So on your MACD, see there's a little perforated line in between here, right? It's like these little lines, and it's sitting at the zero line, right? That's your zero line. See right there?
Okay.
When it's on the top of that zero line,
Then the volume's going up.
yeah. Well, we want it above we want it on the top of it just because that's positive volume.
Okay. Okay, I hear you.
Let's see here. All right, so Matic looks like we're going to get along here. We're working towards our 1 hour moon. We're working up here. So now we slide back down and say, okay, so now we want to set our alerts here and say, okay, this is going to be where we're looking for our 2 hour moon, which is going to be our pump, right? So we want to set up our alerts, right? So all we have to do here is right click over in here, hit add alert, right? And we're going to go for the crossover, right? That's what we want to see, is we want to see the crossover. They have the cross under, they have etc. So we want to see the crossover. Let's see here.
What did you do? You right clicked on the red trend?
Yeah. So you just right click on, you know, your trend area or your moon. It doesn't really matter, right? And you're just gonna slide over, and you need to hit crossover, right? And we're gonna hit once per bar, right? And we're gonna get rid of all that, and we're just gonna put moon 2 hour, right? Hit create. Now, when that has a 2 hour crossover, you know, we're gonna get an alert in there, right? And for
I
us,
didn't follow that. Can you repeat that so that I can see how you do it?
yeah, you just right click on here. It doesn't really matter what you're right clicking on. Just right click in your indicator. So you can click this indicator.
The
Just
screen keeps going out. I just can't see what you're doing. I don't know why.
so go to the trend lines, right? Green or red trend. Go to the green or red trend on that and hit alert, right? And what we're gonna do is, yeah. So we're gonna go over and basically hit our crossover once per bar. We're gonna do the moon 1 hour. We're gonna create that.
Can't say I really know how to do this, to be honest with you.
So right click. Go to the red or green line and hit the right click. So hover over the red or green line, right click.
Okay, I did that, then I went to create alert. So now I'm inside.
Very top, at the very top, add alert. Right?
Right. Okay, so I did that, and now I'm inside create alert, and I've got settings and notification.
Okay, the settings is already there. So go to the condition, right? And slide to the right. There's two boxes. Drop down the second box to the right, and you're looking for a crossover.
Cross over.
Yeah.
I have crossing, cross up, cross down, greater than, less than, entering channel, exiting channel, inside channel, but I don't have crossover.
There's What is your
I can screen.
what's your second what's your second condition as it goes down? Is it set on crossing? Oh, you're at the wrong man. Yeah, that should be on crossing, bro. Look, that's
Yeah,
one. Look
I've
up.
got Matic and
Yeah, look
crossing.
up, look up. Above that, there's two boxes. The
It's very
box to the
close.
right. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
You're in this one right here, bro. You need to go to the top right one. You need this one.
How do I get there?
It's right above it.
I
You're
don't see anything above it.
all right. So, are you in? Yeah, you should have it.
Let me do it again. Let me do this shit again. Add alert.
Right click, add alert. There's two boxes at the very top.
That's condition, extract, long.
No. Okay, you're on the wrong. Go. You're looking. We're on this. We're on the MACD right here. We're on the moons.
Oh, so I have to be on the moon. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Add alert. Oh, I see it now. Okay, crossing.
Crossing's already set. Top right. You need to go and hit the crossover.
Crossover, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. QQE crossover.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, what's next?
So that should be once per bar, and then that should do it for you.
And then alert name is Green Moon, I guess, right?
Yeah, I always put the hour. I put whatever hour it is. 1 hour green moon. Just so when it pops up, I know it's a 1 hour, and so I'll put the name of it. Like I'll put 1 hour moon. I'll put 1 hour Matic. So I'll put like on the bottom there. I'll put Matic 1 hour moon. So when it does pop up, I know what coin it is, and I know what's popping up on it.
Okay. I got 1 hour Matic Green Moon. And create.
All right.
Okay.
So now we go to the 30-minute here. We can see that Matic is starting to get its rejection, right? See, it's on the 30-minute, it didn't make its green moon. It rejected, which is okay because it's going to build momentum. So it looks like it's going to be sitting on top of this moving average right here, starting to compound itself.
Uh-huh.
So that's why we're always waiting on the 5-minute to confirm. So the 5-minute, we rejected out that moving average, and now the RSI is coming back down, which is going to give us another entry. Right. So we're always looking for the best entry. So far we've tapped here. Our entry was 112.09. It came back. Looks like this seems to be the average right on this line here. So 1250, 1250, 1250. So now, we have higher lows, higher low, higher low. And now whatever this low comes down to, if it doesn't get below this, then we're going to have our next higher low, right? And that's going to be our entry point. And then we're going to basically play that point up as our entry, and then our stop loss is kind of like that lower low right here where there's these kind of hit out. That's the lowest point of our low. So this right now, what we're waiting for is the RSI to basically pull itself back down.
Yeah.
All right, that's why you never enter when you see anything pumping unless the 5-minute RSI comes down. So right now we have the 5-minute RSI we need to come down. Plus we have the 15-minute RSI that we need to also reset itself, which it is. And we need the 30-minute also, pushing up, but it also needs a little bit of a reset. So right now, in our favor, we have the 1 hour in our favor, right? The 1 hour is going up, but the 2 hour needs to also reset itself. So 2, 1, 30, 15 need to be all lined up. So right now they're getting to that, but this could take a nice 2 hours to do, right? So that's kind of where we're at right there. All right, so let's take a look at Doge here. And I wanted to take a look at one more thing. So let me pull up Matic here, and let's see if we can get some type of gauging, right? So let's take a look at the Matic chart over the last the prior week, and let's see if we can find a kind of like some areas of support and resistance, right? So this just goes by using market sessions, right? And really all it comes down to is last Sunday at 5 p.m. New York time to this Sunday, right? High and low. So for Matic, we slide over here. Dot P. All right, so let's go to last Sunday, the 27th, 26th, right in here. This is the beginning of your market. So you can take a nice little trend line. All right, so now what we're gonna do here is slide over Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And we're gonna have our Sunday right in here. All right, so we're gonna put our Sunday to Sunday. Find your time frames, these zones right here. And what we're going to be looking for is just kind of like finding a trend at our highest point, right? So we have our highest point, we'll have our lowest point, we'll have our support in the middle, and then our other support. So we have like 4 lines there, right? So let's get these lined up, just so that we can have an idea of what's happening as far as like where everything's at. So the first line is going to be our high, right? So this is where we hit our high right here. And our bottom line is going to be basically our low point, which is right here. Okay, and then we have some lines in between that we can get set up here. All right, so let me straighten some of these lines out here. So that's about right. And now this would be kind of like finding the middle zone right here where it touched down a couple times. This is where it found support a few times right here. You can see the wicks come down, touches, right? You're starting to see it reset here. This is also where this had some support even on the prior week. You can see the support through there. And then as we move up, we have our middle zone here. And what we're looking for is consistent wicks and bottoms right here. So here's kind of like a wick, 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 bottom, bottom, resistance, resistance, support, support, resistance. So that's kind of like our line there. And then we had our high, which is sitting for the week right about there. All right, so there's our support and resistance for the week, right? And we let it bleed into the next week, right? So we broke above our previous high, right? So here's our higher high. Now we're down here. So more than likely, right? More than likely what's going to happen is we're going to have to retest this high of last week, right? That's kind of like a target for us right out the gate. So this is going to be the determining factor. The very first thing that we're doing is, now that it's Wednesday, and here's kind of like how you could have played Matic for the week, right? So you see right here on Sunday, okay, this is what we're talking about, finding trends, right? You hear me, Rich?
Yeah, I'm watching you.
Okay, so now that I go to Sunday and I look at my Sunday and I lock this in, and this is, 5 o'clock New York time, right? And what happens is on Monday, you let the coin play itself out the direction it wants to finish, right? So it goes down, it taps the support line. Now that happened to be the support that we seen prior, which was the last support on Friday. You see that?
Yep.
So it tapped it again, right? And then it starts to move up, right? So that's letting us know that it's starting to retest this support line. It moves up, right? It makes a play towards the upward motion here on Monday. Then it starts to retrace, rejects, comes back down, fights its way up, gets rejected again a second time. Normally after 2 rejections, it goes the other direction. So here's the second rejection, and what does it do? It comes all the way back down on Monday, and it retests that support line again. You see that?
Yep.
Now, the second time normally is going to say that it's going to go the other direction, right? So when we seen this first rejection, you see that? And then Matic decides to push up and then comes back down, has a second push, gets rejected twice, just like it did on the bottom. So rejection, rejection, now we play the short, right? And we play the short back to its retest, right? And now what we're really waiting for is to what direction is this going? So it comes down, it retests, goes up, tries to break, comes back down, and this retest, right? This right here, the second retest should have been where we said, okay, Matic is starting to move back up. This lets us know that the direction it's trying to go comes back and retests, and this should have been our entry for the week for the long. This little area here. So we should have got in Matic at about $1.08, and then rode Matic all the way back up to its resistance line up here. So now, here goes Matic with its first push, right? First push above, rejected, comes back down. This more than likely is going to re-push this next 2 days and retest $1.17. This area in here, $1.16, $1.31. It's going to re-push and retest, right? So if it breaks through here, we're going to get to this resistance line up here, and then more than likely, we're going to come back down on the Thursday night, and this is where we're either going to hit our support line here, or we're going to come all the way back, and we're going to change directions, right? So Matic looks like it wants to push one more time to this resistance line, right? But in the beginning of the week, we had Monday where it retested. That should have been our long position right there, right? So that is going to happen on, let's see here. So Monday at 4 o'clock, right? So let's go take a look at Matic on Monday at 4 o'clock and see like what we were looking at. So Matic Monday at 4 o'clock, right? So what happened to Matic Monday at 4 o'clock? So let's take a look here. And Monday, Matic 4 o'clock, which would be 1600, right? So look right here. Matic at 1 o'clock in the morning, right? We get a 2-hour moon. See that? It resets, goes along. Here's your 2-hour moon right here. Okay? Starts to go along, and all of a sudden, as it's going along, here's our 11 o'clock, noon, and then boom, we get to our 4 o'clock right here. We see our trend right there, our 2-hour trend. 2-hour trend hits. That's a $1.09 area, right? That's basically, that was our alert to set our position at in this area here at maybe a $1.09, $1.10 area. Went into a long at a 30x, right? Now somewhere in here, let's see how this would have played out. So we get this here, we have a 2-hour moon. We could have took advantage of this 2-hour moon, this little push here. Now on the 2 hours, it looks like small candles, but in reality, it's like they're moving huge, right? So here's a 2-hour moon. We would have found it on this candle. We should have got in on this candle here. So there's always two pushes on a 2-hour moon, okay? So that we would have got in on this candle. That's a nice 1% gain right there, 1.8. So if we're doing a 50x or our 80x like we're supposed to on that, minimum 50, that's about a 75% gain, right? That's where we want to live. That's 75% gain. Then we're out of the trade, right? So let's take a look here, and I want to go through both these trades real quick. So I'm going to mark this area here. I'm going to make it a little bit thicker, and then I want to mark the next area, which is this trend area here, where we started to flash the moon, right? And what I want to look at for us is basically how we would have entered these trades, right? So now let's slide to the 1 hour and see what was happening at that time. So at that time, we had our we had our 1 hour, 2-hour green moon and a 1 hour green trend. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that, remember, when we get a 2-hour green moon, what do we need? A 1 hour green trend, right? So we should have got somewhere in this candle here, which would have gave us our gains that we wanted, right? And at that point, we would have been out with our gains, and then we're waiting as we retrace. As we come along, we can see here that we get the 2-hour green trend, right? But at that time, if we take a look, we would check our 1 hour. We're in a 1 hour red moon. You see what I'm saying? So at that time, the 1 hour red moon, right, would be our confirmation. We slide over, we see we're in a 1 hour red moon, and the 1 hour RSI is headed down here, right? So we would wait for this to reset. So we would sit on this, and we would sit all the way through this until the 1 hour moon hits again. You see that?
Uh-huh.
So then on our 2 hour, right? Here's our moon on the 1 hour. Our moon hits right here, right? That's where we would enter the 2 hour moon because we got the 1 hour moon confirmation. See what I'm saying? So this would be the area that we would be looking to get in, right? So now I'm going to move this down here. Actually, let me Control Z that. Boom. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a trend line here because once we get this 1 hour moon, this is where we want to go to the 5 minute and get our entry point, okay? So 2 hour moon hits, right? We get our 1 hour trend right here. That's our go. So we enter. Now, let's say you wait for the 2 hour moon to hit and you wait for the 1 hour green moon, right? Here's your 1 hour green moon. Here's your entry. Same thing, same candle. This entry comes in, you would have got in, this is a full hour of time to get into this candle. You would have got into this candle somewhere here, still 1.5, right? So no matter what happens, you got a 75% gain. You see how that works?
Yeah.
Okay, so
The only thing is, we know when to get out.
that's the thing, man. We don't do it long extensions, right? We're not you know, there's two types of trades, right? There's where we're doing high leverage trades, right? The high leverage trade is our goal is 50% profits, right? So once you're in that trade and you're seeing it's pumping for you and it's moving, right? You're going to basically just be moving your stop loss as this continues up, right? And we'll go through that trade in a second, and we'll basically go over where the out is, okay? So right here we get a 2 hour moon, we get our green trend. That's confirmation, and then we see our green moon right here. That's an entry, right? 2 hour green moon needs the 1 hour green moon, 1 hour green trend. There's your entry, right? Me personally, anytime I have a 2 hour green moon, I take as soon as there's a trend, 2 hour moon and a trend, I enter. Okay. Now a lot of times, you know, you guys should probably to keep it where you understand where you can be more solidified is 2 hour moon, 1 hour moon, trend, enter, right? So if you have a trend, if you want to be a little more safer, you can wait for that 1 hour moon. You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
For me, a 2 hour moon and a green trend, I'm entering.
Right. So 2 hour moon, green trend, and you enter.
Correct. Now, that's when the 2 hour moon first pops up in there, right? Now, to avoid pullbacks, right? To avoid pullbacks and anything that could go wrong, because sometimes if you're not paying attention to volume and all these other things, the correct way to enter for you guys to be more safer is 2 hour moon, 1 hour moon, 1 hour green trend, right? So that's where we should keep it, just so that people don't get caught off if they enter incorrectly. Don't check the RSIs on everything else. You know, there's a whole formula there. So let's go with a 2 hour moon, 1 hour moon, green 1 hour trend. Okay. So that'll be basically to the enter of the long. Let me pull up a note here. So I'm going to read basically here. So we need a 2 hour moon, needs a 1 hour moon, and trend. One hour trend. Okay. So that way it's very simple, right? That's a simple trade. Okay. Perfect. So now we get the 2 hour moon, we get the 1 hour trend, and then the 1 hour moon hits, we enter, there we go. We don't really sacrifice that much in profit. Very little, maybe 10-15%, which is meaningless right here at this point. But that's going to stop people from having where there's a giant pullback or some type of wick and they get wicked out, right? So that'll be the higher percentage trade. So we'll just keep that. So now moving forward, let me go back here and make sure the first thing we got. All right, so now that's the 2 hour moon. And then what happens here, this is the 2 hour trend. So let's take a look at the 1 hour. So now when we get the 2 hour moon, we have a 1 hour trend, 1 hour moon, we get our long. Now what happens is the 2 hour trend pops up right in here, right? 2 hour trend pops up, right? Which means a continuation of the 2 hour moon, okay? So we're starting to see momentum here. Everything's starting to build up. It's starting to work in our favor. And we have a 2 hour moon, and then we get a 2 hour trend, right? Now, a lot of times guys will go in and say, okay, what's the trade? The 2 hour moon, 2 hour trend, right? That needs a 1 hour moon, okay? So a 2 hour moon and a 2 hour trend, you see how it hits right here? The 2 hour trend hits right there, right? Normally people will enter that trade right there, and we have this major pullback that happens, right? To avoid this pullback, right, we are going to look at the 1 hour and simply go like this. Here's the 2 hour trend hits right here. We do not have a moon, so we stay out of that trade. We wait until we get the green moon, which is right here, which is our entry point right here. You see that?
Yep.
Okay. That avoids any else things that's going on. And secondly, once again, what do we need is we need the Control Z. We need positive volume, right? So let's make sure that we're double checking that. So here's the green moon. What does it have? Positive volume. See that?
Yep.
So boom, that's a very safe trade there, right? So now, once we get the 2 hour trend or the 2 hour moon, the second trade is the 2 hour moon and the 2 hour trend, okay? So the 2 hour moon hits, we take advantage of that first trade. The 2 hour moon then gets a 2 hour trend. That's the second trade, right? To enter the second trade, we have to make sure that the 1 hour agrees, which is with the green moon. It agreed right here. So now to enter this trade, right? We're going to look at both these trades. We would slide over, right? And first thing you want to do is look at your 30-minute RSI. All right, just so that you can take a peek here, right? So here on that first 2 hour moon that hit, right? You see right here? Your 30-minute RSI is coming off the bottom and it's moving up, right? You see that? Here's your 2 hour moon. Here's your RSI, right? So your RSI is sitting at about the 60 line, halfway up. Plenty of room to run. You see that?
Yep.
Now, where do you end this trade, right? You're normally going to end that trade when the 15-minute RSI bends down or crosses over, okay? I like going off of the 15 and the 30-minute RSI. Now notice right here, you see right here where the RSI crosses?
Yep.
That's the end of the trade, right? So I'm going to put a little line right here to basically let me know where that 30-minute ended, and then we'll check that with the 15-minute, okay? Second, the next entry, you come over here, right? We wait for the moon hits here, your 30-minute RSI is still pulling back, right? So where would your entry be here on the 30-minute? You would wait for the 30-minute to pull back, and you see how right here it starts to bounce up? This is where we would start to look to go long here. You see that? So now, let me put another line here. And this line is going to basically let me know that this is where, let me go blue here. This is where the RSI on the 30-minute starts to bend up. You see that?
Yep.
So now that I got my 30-minute bending up, right? Now that I got my 30-minute bended up, now I go to the 5-minute to get my entry. Okay? So now I'm entering, right? So now everything's going the way I want it. It looks good. I got my 2 hour moon. I got my 2 hour trend. My 1 hour green moon went in. Everything's ready to go. And now what I need to do is the 30-minute trend is in my favor, right? The RSI is in my favor. So let's walk this through. 2 hour moon. 2-hour trend hit. The 2-hour trend needed a 1-hour green moon. It hit. Next thing, check the 30-minute RSI. It is now in my favor. Now that that all happened, I go to the 5-minute because I am going to enter now on the 5-minute, right? So when I go to the 5-minute, this is the 30-minute trend right here. This is where it ticked, right? I go to the 5-minute, what do I see? I see a green moon. I see a green trend, right? I look here. Now the only thing that would basically set me up here would be if I'm seeing where I'm fighting this 200 moving average, right? You see this 200 moving average that we have? If I see that we're fighting this 200 moving average, I would basically say, okay, I'm gonna jump in this once we break this 200 moving average, right? Now take a look at the 5-minute. We got volume happening, then it's negative volume. See that? Now look at our 5-minute RSI. See our 5-minute RSI at the top? So at this point, when we got here, the 30-minute is hitting right here. Our 5-minute is currently trying to pull back. You see that?
Yep.
So this is where we get to the point where we would push that back and say, okay, we're going to allow this to pull back here, and we're going to wait for this to basically get to a situation where it bottoms out or it has some type of positive volume, right? And we go along, and then boom, we come down, and then we start to move up, and look at the difference in the volume.
Yeah, volume's gigantic, and you just passed the 2-hour, moving average.
Yes. So right here, just as a safety net, you know, this normally doesn't happen, but when it does happen, I don't want to fight the 200 moving average on the 5-minute. As soon as the candle closes above it, right, which would basically happen right here, I could see that my volume is spiked tremendously, and my RSI is just now crossing towards the upside. You see that?
Yep.
So that would be my entry on this candle right here. Okay? That's my entry. So my entry would be off this candle right there. That little candle right there. So that's my entry point right there. I'm going to put that, I'm going to make that light blue. So that's the candle that we enter off of right there. See how that worked out for us?
Yep.
Okay. Now you're not going to win every single trade, right? The reason why we use high volume is that we don't need to be winning super trades. We just need a trade to pop, right? This is why we take profits when it pops, because we're only here. So the very simple system is 10 trades, right? Within 10 trades, we need 4 of those trades to basically do mathematically an average of 50%, right? 4 trades, an average of 50%, right? That is going to give us a 200% trade. Half of that is 100%. That is us doubling our bag. The other 6 trades, right? You can basically have them where you get a win, you get a loss. They cancel themselves out. So you can have 2 null and voids, you can have 2 negative trades, and then you can have 2 average trades, but those 6 trades completely just kind of mimic themselves away. So you can trade horribly and still end up with that 100% gain that we're looking for to get us a double. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we trade with the same amount. So if we have a trading bag that's $50, that's the same bag we trade with on every single trade, right? So we can have 2 $50 trading bags that we're in 2 different types of trades. So that way we can have 2 trades that are popping at one time, or maybe 3 bags that we can kind of get in on 3 different type of trades and set our stop losses and our profit taking and stuff like that as we kind of work around, right? Because sometimes the trade is building momentum, but it might not pop for an hour and a half, and you might see another trade that's starting to build momentum and it pops a lot quicker, right? So you want to have about at least 2 bags on the side, 2 $50 bags that you can get into 2 trades at one time and set your stop losses and your profits, and that way you're not missing out, and a 3rd bag just in case something pops up. Okay? So that's where we would enter on this trade here, right? So now that we got our entry, now that everything's in there, everything kind of pops in there, here we go, there's our trade, right? Now the question is, okay, so where do we make moves here? Where do we take profits, right? So now here's our entry piece, right? Right here's our entry piece, this candle right here. And this here so that we have our entry. All right, so that's our entry right there. So now let's take a look at our profit section here. Profit wise, we get in here. We're on the 5-minute chart. That first pump on the 5-minute gave us a 1% move, right? That's a 50% gain. This type of trade, you would probably be doing 50 to 80 at least. So right here, this hits our target, right? Now, how do we extend these rallies when we have these higher time frames and we're waiting on these? I think the problem is people they learn the method of trading on the 4-hour, the 2-hour, and the 1-hour, which gives us the reason why we trade on higher time frames is because they have a lot more volume and momentum built up, that they have bigger gains or bigger percentages, right? They average literally 1 to 4% gains, where when you're on smaller time frames, you're looking at 0.25 to 1.5% gains, right? Very small. So if you get half of a 1.5%, that's 0.75. You're struggling there to see the volume. But when you're on the 2-hour trade, you're going to get an average of 1% to 4%. So there's a nice little uptick right there, right? So how do we close out of this trade? So now that we're in this trade, we have our 5-minute pullback, right? Now a lot of times for me, I like to, when there's a first trade that kind of goes in there and I hit my percentages, I'm happy with my 50% right there. That's what I wanted. And then from there, I would wait for a pullback, which would be like, so natural. So if people have been buying Matic or any type of coin before this trade happened, right? They're buying way down here. Sometimes they've been holding for a week or whatever. And there's a big pump that happens, right? Psychologically, people always take profits because they think it's going to pump and dump, right? So that first pump right there that I get to that 1%, personally for me, I always take the 5-minute pullback because you don't know how far the 5-minute pullback is going to go. So for me, that first pump, I'll take that 50% profits, right? And then I will let it reset itself. And then from that point on, after it resets itself, then I will basically look for a longer trade. Okay? So the first trade, as soon as I get my profits, right? So Matic gives me 50% profits right here, right? Winning trade, 1% move, 50% profits. I close my deal out. There's my winning trade, right? Very simple. Now, the continuation of this trade, right? With, let's say we're doing a $50 trade there, and the profits that we take in on this trade is $25, right? Something basic. And I say to myself, all right, I'm going to extend the next trade, right? Instead of putting my bag at risk, right, my original bag, which is the 50, I'll take my profits, which are the 25, maybe even 30, whatever I made on there. Maybe if I was doing a higher leverage, maybe I made another 50. Whatever my profits are, right, 20 bucks, 30 bucks, whatever they are. This is the profits are what I'm going to put into the next trade. You understand? So I'm not risking anything else in my bag. I'm putting the profits to work for me now, right? This is something, I like to do because that way this is playing with house money here. You see what I'm saying? So now on this next trade, we have our 5-minute pullback, right? Once the 5-minute pullback happens, we have our red moon, we see our pullback. I would have took profits up here, and on this point, we get our pullback. I would basically wait for the pullback. So I'm sitting around, I'm waiting, and then the red moon hits, and now I'm waiting, and then it becomes a trend, and it goes down, and all of a sudden the 5-minute RSI resets, starts to come up, and then we see the green moon hit right in this little zone here. And now I can say to myself, like, all right, so now we start to see, here's your 5-minute pullback. You get a green moon at this section here, right? And now let's go take a look at our 15-minute at that time. Because now what we're doing is we're looking for the RSIs to line up for us, right? We want to trade with our RSIs. So at this moment right here, you can see that I have my 15-minute RSI starting to move down here, right? And it starts to bend back up at this section here, right? So in this zone here. Now for me, There's your 5 minute pullback. It starts to go green here, like off this candle. So pullback comes down. Here's your 15 minute coming down, and then your 15 minute breaks back up right here, right? So let's move this over here to that 15 minute breakup, which is right in this zone here. And now the final thing that I'm going to trade with is what? The 30 minute. So now I go to my 30 minute and I make sure that 30 minute RSI is in my favor. I scroll down. Here's my 30 minute RSI. It's topped out here. You see that? It's topping out right here. Yeah, it's going sideways. So a lot of times when it's top to the top, it can basically have a lot of volume and a lot of pressure there that it can be moving sideways at that point, right? So that's what it's happening right there. You're getting this sideways move right here, and you know, a lot of times we want to jump in here, FOMO in, and you're not in a bad position, because normally after a 5 minute pullback, once the 5 minute reverses, you're going to have a decent type of move, right? Now, if you're sitting here going, okay, I just want to take where, you know, everything for me is going to be like a second confirmation or a third confirmation, right? So when you look here, here's our 30 at the top. Our 15 minute is bending up, right? So which means we have some moves. I take a look at my 1 hour, right? My 1 hour is also at the top there, right? So we have tons of volume, medium volume here, right? Slide to my 2 hour. And now what I'm looking for is confirmation of, like, you know, how this trade is going at this time, right? And I can see here that we are basically moving up to the top of this trade, which means that we've built up a lot of volume here, which means that we're getting to the point where there has to be some type of like blow off top, right? There has to be some type of push where they kind of blow off all this extra volume that they're building up, because they're getting up into that upper area there. So this trade ends up in these zones here, and for me, I like, once I get my 5 minute pullback and it starts to go in the other section, I had the 15 minute RSI in my favor, which to me is going to give me my pump that I want. So you can take that 15 minute and say, okay, I'm going to ride with my 5 minute reset and my 15 minute RSI. Because you're not trying to stay in a super long time, you're just looking for a pump. So here's your 5 minute, your 15 minute RSI comes down, and here's where it breaks back up, right? So here's your 15 minute, 5 minute pullback. 5 minute pullback happens, it goes green on the 5 minute, everything looks good. You look at the 15 minute RSI, it breaks up right here, and that's all you really need right there with this positive volume to say, okay, I'm going to re-enter with profits right here, and this is where I'm going to basically let the 15 minute ride itself out. Now, you say to yourself, where do we get out of this trade, right? So on this particular trade, we're going to say we're entering back 5 minute pullback. We go with the 15 minute RSI. It bounces back up, it breaks up, we enter. Now, where do we get out of this trade? That's kind of where the question is on this second steam. Once again, I like to see the 50% or whatever, but we're playing with house money, so we can extend this trade, right? So for this, let's slide back down to the 5 minute, and we say that, okay, we're going to get into this trade. Where do we sell this trade, right? And you can see on this move up, we go all the way through here. The maximizing trade is off this little peak right here, right? It's kind of where we want to be. Now, a lot of times you can go to your 15 minute and you can trade off your 15 minute trend, right? So you say, okay, I'm locked in here. I'm going to hold this until I get a 15 minute trend change. So you could ride this all the way up, and all you're going to do is hold that 15 minute trend. And then when you get a red 15 minute trend right here, this is where you would be getting out when you get this 15 minute trend. So you would end up somewhere in this zone down here. So when you're in a longer position, that's kind of where you want to hold. So, and that's not a bad trend move right there. You know, it ends up being a nice little 1.5%, 2% move there. But that's kind of where the trends, you know, for me, if you're holding longer, the 15 minute trend's pretty strong. I would have to review this and kind of see where the 15 minute is right here as far as like what's happening with RSIs, right, and stuff like that. So if I see this 15 minute trend go red, and I look down and I see I have a 15-minute RSI all the way at the bottom, I'm probably not going to sell there because I want the RSI to finish its move, right? So let's see here.
So you're gonna wait for it to go up?
Yeah, I'm gonna, at that point, I'm already kind of like committed to it, right? So when I see this 15-minute trend come in here, and I look down, if my RSI is all the way at the bottom, at that point, I'm probably gonna just say, let me see let me see where this RSI goes. Because if I look here and I then take a look at the 30-minute, right? My 30 minutes coming to the bottom here. You see how my 30 minutes starting to basically bottom out here? So I would probably say, now you run a risk here because the 30 minutes at this point, it could fall all the way down even more. But since the 15-minute was bottoming out there, I would probably look at this and go, all right, since I'm playing with, this is the difference of having like your original bag versus your profit bag, right? I'm probably gonna sit here and go, well, I'm gonna let this RSI roll out here because I'm just using a profit bag anyways. I'm not losing anything if I lose here. You know what I mean? So I would let the RSI play out, and I would allow it one more cycle to push up to see where we're at that next cycle, right? And that's the difference of like how to get in or stay into a long trade. So we push that cycle, it pushes up for us right here, starts to go, and then right here we get another sell signal here, and once again we're still at the bottom of this trade, right? You see this? We're still at the bottom of the RSI. We have a red moon, we have a red trend, and then all of a sudden that's the difference here. So here we had a red moon, but we didn't have our red trend in there, right? So when we got that first trend line right in here, we had a green moon. We didn't have green moon was here. We're riding this up. We don't have a red moon when we get this red trend. Like our first red trend area that hit right here for us right here. We don't have that section there that
Red moon that's gonna push it down even further?
yeah. So you see,
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. So like right here with that 15-minute RSI, I'm staying in that zone. As I move forward, the next time that I get now, I'll show you right here. So
Right, you got the red moon.
yeah. So here we go. So this is basically, the red moon came in here. We're in an entry. We don't have a red trend. We stay there. Right here, by the time the red trend hits, our RSI is at the bottom. So we let that play out. Now, as we let that play out, we're basically aware that we need to get out of this trade sometime because eventually the red moon and the trend are going to basically turn on us. But what happens is we end up catching a green moon here. So we're staying in this trade. And as we move along, we get the red moon again, which is another signal of getting ready to get out of here, right? When we hit this red trend here, right, we see the 15-minute is pushing up and it starts to reverse down. So as it starts to pull down, right, this is what's important about kind of like having your stop losses moved in. As we start to move down here, right, we see this push up and we're like, all right, red moon came, I'm gonna hold for this RSI to bottom. It starts to push and then right here it fails. You see that? It reverses right there. Now when it fails there, to me it's like, ugh, we gotta get out of here because it's a fail. Like that's a fail. Because if we did let it bottom and we let it start to go up, but it didn't continue. Right? That's the fail right there. Cross back over. That point we gotta kind of close out of this because it's losing volume. And then if you look at your volume, you can see that your volume's completely starting to go down here. Right? Now we go back here, the difference in between these two, and this is kind of where you have to take a look, is that when the red moon here and the red trend came in, the 15-minute RSI broke up, but it never crossed again. You see that? It just kept going, right?
Yeah.
And we also look at our volume. As we go here, we're in the green volume. You see that? That's a very heavy volume. So on this one, we could take the risk on this and we move forward. We have green volume. It looks good. It goes to the top. And then on this one, it's a little bit different because when we get the red trend here, right, on this one, we get the red trend here. We have green volume all through here. We get a red moon. We bottom out and we give it another chance, right? Remember, most of the time, the second time doesn't work. Just keep that in your mind. If something tries to break through something and it doesn't work, the second time it tries it, it normally goes the opposite direction. So the first time was our red moon, red trend here. We were able to break through that, and we got lucky and had some volume, and we said, okay, we did well. Here it comes again, and here comes the second red moon, and we're like, all right, we're gonna try this again. Hopefully we keep going. It bottoms, starts to break up, and then all of a sudden we got pretty decent green volume, and then all of a sudden we go yellow, but it broke down right there. You see how it breaks down?
Yeah.
That's the end, right? The second time it fails to make its move, I'm out right there. Even though it's at the bottom, I'm out because we let it bottom, but it didn't continue. So that right there would be my out.
And generally, when you get out like this, do you go short now, or do you just wait?
Yeah, it depends on, so, you'd have to look at that current spot there and say, okay, we had a pretty good run here. You're probably heading towards a 5-minute pullback, right? So if you take a look here, you're probably in a 5-minute pullback situation where you should do a short, right? That's where you would look at your 5-minute pullback and say, okay, where am I at this position, right? And me personally, I like a 5-minute pullback where the RSI comes back up and then comes back down. You see what I'm saying? Because I want room to make money. So right here, I wouldn't go into a short because my RSI is at the bottom, right? So part of the 5-minute pullback is what? 5-minute red moon, 5-minute RSI. But when you get a 5-minute red moon on a pullback, what do you need? You need the 15-minute RSI at the top coming back down, right? That's like part one. Like you need the 15-minute coming back down. Like that's the very first thing, right? So on here, if we go into a short, we can't short this right away because right when we get into this short position, we don't have the RSI built up. It's at the bottom. So I would not get into a short right here. I would wait for this to basically give me some momentum. Maybe if you jump a short early, maybe you jump in right here. You see how it breaks back down? Yeah, so maybe you can get in right here, which isn't bad. You got a nice little spot here. It ends up bouncing a little bit on you, but then the RSI finally collapses in here. So as long as you had your stop loss set correctly, you were going to survive that bounce, right? And then you got rewarded because you're heading towards the 200 moving average, right? So no matter what, we have to let that RSI, I like the RSI to have momentum. So if you jump the gun right here, you're not in a bad position. You just basically had to kind of run that out, but you're making a decision that you're going to short it down to this 200 moving average, right? Now, me, I like to have where the RSI kind of gets above the 50% line, which is right here. I like to see it in this zone here, about 50 or 60%, somewhere around here. And then that rejection right there would be nice. Now, this third thing that I like when I do, like when you're looking at the short side, is I also like the 30-minute RSI to be moving down with me, right? And right here, I probably wouldn't take this short because this 30-minute is well, I mean, it's not too bad. It's pushing up and it starts to reject there. Now you see how it starts to bend down there? But to me, that's not a big gap for a short. So I would probably stay out of this because most of the time I like my RSI to be up higher up in this area here to get a short position, right? So if I was paying attention.
You like to go all the way to the top.
Yeah, I like room to run because I don't want to take a risk of it not doing what it's supposed to do, you know what I mean? Now, if I was watching this coin and we're seeing this move up and the RSI bent right here, that's probably where I would start shorting this coin, would be somewhere in here, right? I'm a big fan of the 30-minute RSI. You know, so if I was watching this move up here, and I'm just trying to give you guys examples of like where you could get in or out with just a signal. Personally, on this move up all the way up here, as soon as the RSI kind of breaks down for the move, when that red trend comes in that area, as soon as the RSI breaks down for me and this higher level, that's something I would be looking for short positions in these areas here. But this one I wouldn't take because it's already at the bottom, so I don't feel like it's enough movement down for the risk. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather just wait for a better opportunity. You see what I'm saying? We don't want to. My goal isn't to do 7 trades in a day. My goal is to do one massive trade, and then if I get lucky, a second massive trade. Right?
Can I ask a question, VC?
Yeah.
Say I'm in the 2-hour. I get a 2-hour like red moon. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Am I looking for a red trend as well on the 2-hour, or am I looking for a red trend on the 1 hour?
You'd be looking for the one. Oh, you'd be looking for a red moon on the 1 hour with a red trend.
Okay,
And
so
then
both. All right.
once you get that, you then need the RSIs to be in your favor.
Yeah. Okay.
So you would need at least a 30-minute RSI to be topped out heading down.
Yeah.
Okay. You just so like the goal is to just basically confirm 4 things to be like, all right, this has a better opportunity to give me the percent that I'm looking for, right? Because if you just wait on a trade and you let it develop, within an hour or two, it'll look way better. And if it's continuing its move, it'll just increase it, right? How many times have you got into a trade and you're like, it looks good, and then it goes the other direction and you get stopped out, and then all of a sudden it dumps.
Yeah.
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 It's just about it's just about saying, man, I just want let me get be greedy. Like, I want everything in my favor. I want the RSI topped out. I want it bottomed out. I want, you know what I mean? I just want everything to line up so that way when it happens, the percent of me winning is 5 times better than me taking a stab at something, right? You don't want to take a stab. All right?
Okay. Yeah.
And that's where you guys have to just stop over trading.
Yeah.
Just
That's the problem.
one super
Yeah.
trade. Like
Getting stabbed, getting burned.
the very first trade, guys, just make it a super trade. Like, just wait and be like, I'm gonna wait for this. I'm waiting for